So this is how to make your titles look $1,000 better inside of DaVinci Resolve Fusion. This is what we're going to be making today. Pretty neat title template, and it's great for opening up your vertical videos and giving your viewers a reason to stay when they swipe onto it. You can see we got some color contrast going, some follower modifiers, and just a lot of motion. This is a great motion graphic to have in your arsenal, so I'm going to show you guys how to go about making this today. Now, there's actually two ways to go about getting this motion graphic. The first way is you could watch this tutorial, you could learn from it, and you can make a preset out of it. And the second way is actually to buy it on my website, where I have two others fully available and ready to purchase. They're all fully customizable with an easy drag and drop edit page interface. So that means if you're on the edit page, it's as simple as pulling them up in your macros folder, dragging them here, and they're all ready to go. And there's even pages in the edit page for you to figure out what you want to work with. So like here for this one, there's a browse button. You could put on a graphic right here in the middle. You could change the text here in the text page. And there's two others to work with as well, of which each have their own pages also. A lot of really cool stuff in all of these. Again, these are available for purchase on my website. But for now, let's get into the tutorial and figure out how to make this motion graphic right here from scratch. So what I'm going to be doing is I have my blank node tree up right here, and I have the preset here loaded in my first window for reference. And as we go, we're going to be referencing this and watching what happens, when it happens, and building it side by side so that you could follow along step by step and get the closest possible thing. So let's get started. So while having already started on my vertical timeline, I added a Fusion composition, jump into the Fusion page, and then just add a blank background node and connect it to media out. When you do it this way, it automatically makes your background node the resolution of your timeline, which is 1080 by 1920. That's perfect for what we want for vertical. We're good to get started. So like I said, in my first viewer here, I have my reference. So what I can tell you already is that this is a white background with a vignette on it, right? And we could even see that here. We have a white background with a vignette. So let's go ahead and load that here. I'm going to grab this. Perfect. We have a white background there. Now I'm going to search for vignette. Now I'm going to put my vignette all the way at the bottom of my node tree, just because I like working with a clean node tree in the meantime. And I want this vignette to be on top of everything else that comes later. So now I'm just going to up the size a little bit, and I think that looks good about right there. And again, it's all subjective. There's no right or wrong as to how to do this. It all looks good anyways. It's just a matter of how you want to set it up. Okay, the next and most obvious thing is just text and giving that text some motion. So let's get that sample text in. Now, the word sample is separate of the word text, right? Now I can see that they're on the same plane. Obviously, they're right next to each other, but they animate in a little differently. So just so that we have a reference of where we're going to be putting this text, let's make a guide. Now, one of the advantages of DaVinci Resolve 20.2 is you can add guides in Fusion now. So watch this. In Fusion, if you right click, guides, show guides, now you can go guides, add resolve guide, horizontal, and you could, I'm going to make this one, let's make it red, or no, let's do blue. Okay, so now I have my guide along the bottom of the text. Let's jump back here. Okay, so I'm going to grab my first text node, take this, drag it into the output of merge 6, and I'm going to change the color so we could see it on this white background. Let's just work with the color black for now. Let's not do anything too crazy. I'm going to write the word sample, and I'm going to write it in all caps. Okay, now that I could see my text, I'm going to change it to my font Montserrat. There, I've added the word sample right onto that line. I'm gonna up the size just a little. Now that first word sample animates in from the top down, all right? So I could see already here, this is just opacity animating up, or blend as it's called in Fusion, animating up as the text moves down. Let's do this. Let's go to frame 13 right here, okay? Now let's animate the opacity first. So if you go to shading, you see this opacity slider right here. Depends on what tab you're in, whether it's called blend or opacity. But I want this to be fully animated in, just fully animated in at frame 7, okay? So at frame 7, I'm gonna add a keyframe for 100% opacity, and then I'm gonna come back at frame 1 is when it's invisible. So invisible opacity down at frame 1. Now, if I wanna make it look like it's just dropping in and adding up to opacity, all I have to do is move it up. So I'm gonna add a keyframe here. Now I'm still at frame 1. I've added my keyframe, right? Now I'm going to jump back to keyframe 7 and add my keyframe here as well, and just leave it right where it is. Jump back to that first keyframe and pull my title up. Now watch what happens when I scrub through here, when I play it. It drops in just like that. We've added 2 sets of keyframes. We've added the position where it starts here, finishes here, and we've added the opacity where it's 0% and then 100%. So now when I play it, it drops in. And if I want to add just a little bit of extra sauce here, I could go to the settings tab in my inspector, turn on motion blur, quality all the way up. And then if you want to add even more sauce, you go to spline, take this displacement right here, full screen this so it's easier to see. You want to take this curve, right? Select both points, press S, and then drag this out. This kind of gives it that nice quality touch. Drops in right there. Okay, now if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd appreciate it if you left a like on this video or subscribe to the channel. I'm getting up super early to make this video. It's currently 5:30. I was up 5 to start recording. I'm making sacrifices to do this. So if you're enjoying, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's look at the next text. The next text is literally just the word text, and you can see it animates on from left to right. It writes on. So it starts right at frame 5, right at about the text has finished moving onto its position on the guide. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to take another text node, drag it down in here. And in Fusion, if you want to copy and paste settings, all you have to do is copy and right click paste settings. And that's it. Now you have the exact same text with the exact same motion, but we don't want the exact same text with the exact same motion. We don't want to animate the opacity. We don't want to animate the position. So I'm going to go to the 0% opacity position, delete that keyframe, delete the main keyframe at 1, go to the layout, delete these keyframes, and we actually still need to connect the flow line. So this way our title is just right here. And even though we can play and animate this one doesn't go anywhere. It's just the same size, the same font, the same color, etc., stuff like that. So we want to make this one right on, right? So let's make this one say text, move it about right there. That way it looks like there's proper spacing in between. You can see here in my reference, the word text is gone. So this is the frame that we're going to start at, frame 5. So in my inspector, I'm going to take this handle under the right on parameter and just drag it all the way down. Take the keyframe. We're going to jump to frame 9. Okay. And that's where it's done animating on. And I'm going to take this handle and just drag it all the way back up. And I'm going to do the same thing here for this parameter. For right on end, take both these points in their spline, press the letter S, and then take this top handle and just drag it all the way to the left so that you get this sort of nice animation right there. And again, for that extra sauce, you always go into settings and turn on motion blur, which it's already on because we copied those settings. So now this is what we have. Doesn't look too bad. It's a great first start, right? So next we want to have that big chunk of text, that big title that says sample text. Okay, so let's drag in another text node. It's at our merge node here. I'm going to copy and paste some settings, copy, paste settings, and I'm going to lose the keyframes here. So now that we have no keyframes and this is just the word text, I'm going to drag this down. You want to make sure that you have no keyframes here. Your right on is unkeyframed. Your position and opacity are unkeyframed, right? But now that this is available, you just drag this down, this one right here, and let's change our font. So I'm thinking, just as to follow along with our reference here, this is chunky and italic text. So let's go, is there an extra bold italic? There we go. And we're going to bump up this size too. Like we're going to make this size a lot bigger, and we're going to make this say sample text because we want this line to be a little bit longer. Okay, drag this into our middle right here. Now we don't want to make this text like too big, just because you got to understand that in vertical video, there is still a safe guide, just because as you're scrolling on your phone, there's going to be buttons like the like button, the comment button. There's going to be like the big TikTok or Reels title up top right, or whatever you're watching on. Just to account for that, I actually made an overlay. So if you go into your media pool, I'm going to show you exactly how to add this. I have this vertical safe overlay right here. So check this out. This shows you exactly where not to put anything. So as long as you're inside these black lines, you're fine. And you can actually get this overlay for free on my website. This is a freebie download. So while you're on my website checking out the motion graphics, you can also grab this as well, so that when you're working on things, whether it be in the edit page or even in Fusion, you can know that whatever you're working on isn't going to be blocked by some text somewhere. So this is really good to have. So while you're setting your text here, right, you can be certain that you're not going to be going outside of any boundaries. And that's really useful to have. Okay, I'm going to lower my text just a little bit here. Not really working with that guide so much. So I'm going to right click this guide and press remove guide. Looks good. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So the next thing is making this line of sample text animate in 1 by 1 per each letter, right? So we could already see before we even start that motion blur is on. That's good. We're definitely going to want motion blur for this one. So as per our reference, this one starts at frame 11, okay, and finishes at about frame 20. So over the course of 9 frames is when it animates on. So I'm going to show you how to do that 1 by 1. We're going to start at frame 20, okay? Because we're going to work backwards with our animation. It makes it easier to figure out where we're going to end. So on frame 20, in your text box right here, right click and press follower. I passed it right here, follower. This is going to add what's called a modifier to your text. Now, a modifier is just something that changes the way your effect or instance already works. And in this case, we're adding a follower just because these letters will follow each other into position. So to set what those positions are, you want to come into shading. Now, this is a position thing. I don't know why it's in shading. It just is. But go into shading, come all the way down to position, and keyframe offset right here, right? It's going to open up your path modifier just because it's establishing a new path. Jump back into follower, and we're going to frame 11. We're going to frame 11 where there's no text visible. And now we're just going to take this Y position and drag it down. Okay. Now here, when you play it, now you can see this move up. Now we are going to use a mask for this. Okay. So if you take your rectangle mask right here and drag it onto merge 12, connect it into the blue input. Now we're going to draw our mask around the text here, just like this. So when it moves up, it moves into the mask, and you can see what you're working with. Now, what makes this really cool, the follower modifier, and to get back to your follower modifier, just hit text, go to modifiers, and you could be back in your follower modifier here. I'm going to add the delay here. So let's do about 0.885. Check this out. Now when it moves up like this. It moves up the letters before one another, right? Now you're probably thinking to yourself, this doesn't look exactly the same right now. Just because on one side, this is a little more, the left side is a little more smooth, where this side is just kind of robotic. That's that spline curve. That's the difference here. So open up your spline curve again, okay? Right check displacement. Select these two here. I'm gonna make this full screen. Full screen is just this little arrow button right here. And then I'm gonna take this handle and drag it all the way out again. So now let's watch. It looks beautiful. That looks awesome. That looks great. Okay, so the next thing is you can see there's this blank space in the middle of my reference right now. So this is for an image or for what's called a loader. So when you add an image here, it's going to pop up and it's going to animate in. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that as well. In your Fusion page, search for the node loader, Loader. Okay. So you've added a loader node to your page, and now it's going to ask you, what image do you want to have pop up? I'm just working with this DaVinci Resolve logo here. So now let's animate this logo popping in. I'm just going to use a simple transform node for this. This isn't anything crazy. So I think I want it to not be that big. Yeah, that's about as big as I'd like it to be. I'd like it to finish animating on at about this frame 18. So I'm going to set a keyframe for my size. I want it to start animating in right here. Bring the size all the way down. Now I also want to animate the angle. Okay, so I'm going to set a keyframe for my angle, jump back up to where I want it to finish. I want my angle to finish at 0. So now I'm going to jump back to my first angle keyframe, drag it all the way to the left so that this way, when it loads in, it starts in at an angle there. I'm going to add that secret sauce again, turn my motion blur on. Or I just want to edit the spline of size first. So I'm going to do that. Select both these points, the letter S, drag this all the way to the left. Now I'm going to do angle. Both points, letter S, drag this all the way to the left. Not bad. It looks pretty good. Cool. Okay, now let's move on to that bottom text down here. Now we have this much space to be working with to add our bottom text. So if we need to, maybe we can adjust the size of the image that loads in after. But before we do that, one thing I'm noticing that is on the reference is that there's a little bit of a drop shadow behind all of the text, okay? So I'm gonna go through and add a little bit of drop shadow here. Now I'm gonna go to my first text node, search drop shadow, add that on. And then we're just gonna copy and paste this setting all the way down, okay? So let's add our shadow here up. And you can kind of see it back there. Turn this blur down. There it is. It's a little hard to see at first. Turn this distance all the way down, right? Let's add the way up. It just gives it some depth. It makes it a little easier to see on the white background. Turn the strength down a little. Yeah, it just gives it some dimensionality. Before, after, it's just a little bit nicer to look at. So I'm going to copy this drop shadow, Command C, Command V, hold Shift and drag it down onto the line here. And you can see it pops in on text. Command V again. I'm going to click off so I don't have any nodes selected. Command V again and drag it down onto the line. Now, when we add our drop shadow to this sample text, you can see there is a hard line here. It looks a little funny. Why is that? Well, it's because of the mask. That's right where our mask is. So I'm just going to turn the soft edge up just a bit. And that kind of solves that problem. And let's play it to make sure it still looks good. Yeah, everything animates in just fine. Damn, that looks good. That looks really good. So now let's work on that sample text down beneath. I'm gonna grab another text node, drag it down right here, connect it via merge node, jump to my text here, sample right here. You can see it's writing in white. I'm gonna change this to black again just to match the rest of our text here. Okay, I'm gonna turn the size up and change our font to Montserrat. And I am gonna add a reference here. Okay, so I'm gonna load this into my second window, right click, guide, add resolve guide, keep this one horizontal, we'll make it blue. Drag this down there. So we want the bottom of the letter P more or less to be on our guide. Okay, so let's take this, drag this down here, line that up nice. All right, now how does this one animate on? This one animates on same way as our first sample word does here, okay? So this one's done animating on at frame 27. So I'm gonna go to my shading, opacity 100% at 27, and it's completely invisible at frame 19 here. So I'm gonna drag opacity down. Now I'm gonna go back to frame 27, put a keyframe at its position, right? Keyframe right there, jump back to the first 0% opacity keyframe. And now I'm just gonna drag it down. So this way, when it animates in from the bottom going up as it's coming into opacity. Again, gotta add that secret sauce, go to settings, motion blur, quality up, come down to my spline right here. I'm gonna uncheck opacity at the moment and just work on my displacement. So select these 2 points, letter S, grab this handle and drag to the left. That actually looks pretty decent. You can see that a lot of this is just a lot of repetitiveness. You know, you're just adding one thing, copy and pasting some settings, and you're good to go. All right, now let's add this italic sample here. Text here. I'm gonna make the font black. Font Montserrat. Now this one is, I'm gonna say bold italic. Let's write the word sample. Now we do have to up this size quite a bit. I don't think I ended up following our guide reference there, but it's okay. It's all subjective. We can move stuff around after the fact. I'm just gonna turn guides off. Let's take this size, bump it way up. And I'm gonna make this one not all caps. It does need to be a little bit thicker than this. This was extra bold italic, right? No, I think it was just black italic. That works. It's down just right there. So you can see in our reference, the first sample animates in, and the second one is again another follower modifier. Perfect. All right, so let's begin working on our follower modifier. Let's take a mask rectangle, add it into our blue input of the merge here. And just because this text node, the sample, is the only one on this connected to this merge, this is the only text that this mask is affecting. Okay, we've added our masks to the word sample. Now let's animate it in. So the finish is animating at frame 34. So I'm gonna go into my text, again, right click in the text box, press follower, jump over to the modifiers tab up here, go to shading, set a keyframe at your last position, okay? And then jump to the position you want it to start keyframing at. So in this case, it's frame 24. Jump back up to follower and drag down your Y position. And you can see it's dragging down outside of the mask. It's exactly what we want. Now you do have some displacement here. I'm gonna select these 2 points, press the letter S and drag this all the way over to the left. And now I'm gonna mess with the timing setting. So as I play it, you see it pops up just like that. That's good, that's what we want. Did we turn our secret sauce on? We did not. You wanna turn the motion blur on all the way up, jump back over to modifiers here. And now I'm gonna up the delay just a little. About maybe like 0.4 right there. So now watch this. That looks awesome. I never get tired of the follower modifier. The follower modifier is so fun to add in. That looks great. Now there's just one more thing left to add. It's just another sample text, and that's it. So this one animates on the same way as this top one right here, where it just moves from bottom to top, comes up from the bottom direction and fades into opacity. So let's add another text node. And this one is pretty thin, honestly. So let's change our font to black, change our font to Montserrat. And it's just the word sample here. Let's make not exactly thin, medium for sure. And then up this size. Now, as long as we're in these black borders that we established earlier, we're fine in terms of what's visible and where we can animate. So I'm gonna put this right here, I think. That looks good right there. So this is done animating in at about frame 40. Give or take, it's around there. It doesn't need to be perfect. So I'm gonna go to shading, turn my opacity keyframe on at 1. Now I'm going to go back to where I want to start animating. In this case, it's about 31. Turn my opacity down. Jump back to the 100% opacity, set a keyframe at my position because this is where I want the position to end when it's done animating. Jump back over to opacity, go to my first keyframe, go back to layout, and just drag this down. And just before we take a look at how this looks, I'm going to grab my 2 points here. I'm actually going to turn off the opacity keyframe because I don't want to change the smoothness of how quickly opacity comes in. I just want to change the smoothness of how quickly it moves from bottom up. Select these 2 points here under displacement, letter S. Come on, select 2 points, letter S. Grab this handle and drag it all the way out to the left. And now that looks awesome. That looks absolutely awesome. I'm going to turn off our safe guide right here, our overlay. So now this is what we're left with. That looks awesome. That looks super, super cool. So that is the gist of how to make this motion graphic. And you can open up your vertical videos with this. And this is a good way of grabbing your viewers' attention and making them want to stay on your video. Knowing how to use motion graphics and using little motion tricks and stuff just to get your viewers' attention is a valuable thing in today's attention economy, just because YouTube is all based around grabbing someone's attention and keeping them, right? So knowing how to edit for that is very important. And that's exactly what makes this type of motion graphics so valuable. And that's exactly what makes the other motion graphics on my website valuable as well. Now that we've gone through and seen how to construct this, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the other motion graphics that I have available. So this is the first one. This is the one that we've been watching the entire time. Now there are a few little bells and whistles that comes with this one that I didn't show you how to make here. So for example, if I go to browse, I'm going to choose this DaVinci Resolve logo, right? So with this particular one, I added a few extra things as well. You can see that there's these lines that animate in. It just looks a little different. There's no right or wrong way to do it. This is just a little bit of my secret sauce I wanted to add here. So for example, if I wanted to make this one about whether or not DaVinci Resolve can beat out Adobe Lightroom in terms of editing photography, because DaVinci Resolve now supports ARW. For this one, I would jump over to the text page right here and say, can DaVinci out Lightroom for photo. Can DaVinci beat out Adobe Lightroom for photo? And it animates in just like that. Let's check out number 2. Number 2 is really great for comparing things. So if I wanted to compare one thing against another, I'd say, let's make this one DaVinci. DaVinci is one-time payment. This text here, this text up. One-time payment, simple, lining up our dots here, and easy to use. Now right here, you do see this circle. In your media tab, you can actually browse what image you want to use. Now in this particular case, I thought this brain looked really cool, so I designed this one around this brain graphic, which comes included when you purchase these motion graphics, by the way. But you can use whatever you want. So you can add in your graphic here, and then as it plays, it moves over and compares against something else. And then you can come into your sample 2 tab, let's say Premiere, say monthly payments. You get the point. You can go through and add all this. And then there's motion graphic macro 3. This one's really cool. This one is also a little bit computationally heavy just because it works with a bunch of images or video in the background. But you go through, you can add all of your text here and it pops up like so. But in the background is cool. You have 12 different images that you can go through and add into the background, and they play in sequence. So I'm going to show you, for example, 1 or 2. Oh, and I got to make sure you switch on background images here. When you turn on background images, then it allows you to add background images. So I was trying to train Sora as to what I look like so I could generate pictures of myself. And so I got a bunch of just like around me sort of pictures. And this is one of them here. And go in and add the next one. Here's one right here. And like I said, this one's a little bit more computationally heavy just because there's some color correction going on in the background automatically when you add in images. So it's processing a little bit more. It takes a little bit longer for the render cache, but this one looks sick when it's all loaded and everything plays smoothly. So yeah, that's the gist of it. I have these 3 motion graphics macros available for purchase on my website. If you don't want to go through and follow the tutorial here, they make adding this stuff in super quick, very easy, and they look good as well. So go check those out on my website. They're linked down below. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you learned something, I would ask that you like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more tutorials like this. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll be answering anything I can. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.